KVK2 is the most sought after kingdom versus kingdom fight in Rise of Kingdoms right now. But what should you be doing whether you're a free-to-play, low spender, or mega whale if it's your first KVK? Stick around in this video to find out. Welcome everybody, this is Psych Out here with another video on KVK. In particular, we're going to be talking about KVK2 and what you should be thinking about if you're a free-to-play or low spender, mid spender, or even mega whale going into your first KVK2. Now, the first time you're in KVK2, it's probably a big and very different experience for you, and I'm going to walk you through some of that here. But keep in mind that many players are coming back to KVK2 to play it over and over again. With the current way Rise of Kingdom is set up and players not wanting to go into Season of Conquest, not wanting to spend for crystal technology, lots and lots of players are migrating to Young Kingdoms to go back and do the KVK2 and KVK3 experience all over again. So if you're a new player, if you're a native to a kingdom and your first ever KVK2, what should you be thinking about? You're going to be going against people who've been playing for 400, 500, 600 days or more in KVK2. And if your account is only 100 or 120 days old, what are the kinds of things you should be thinking about in this KVK? And that's what this video is all about. I'm going to tell you which marches you should be using, what kind of troops you might want to use depending on your power and spend level. So the first thing to think about with KVK2, and I'm going to zoom out of the map as I'm prepared to open these passes here in a few days for KVK2. This is our KVK2 map. We are in this lower left-hand corner, Kingdom 2250. You can see here on September 3rd at 1830 UTC, these passes open, and there will be fighting. This is our one of our enemy camps, or one of our enemy kingdoms rather, over here, and we're going to be fighting in this zone. And what marches should you be bringing if you are a low spender? What kind of marches should you bring out for open field fighting? That's what this video is all about. Open field fighting in KVK2. What marches should you bring if you are a low power player? And I'm talking about somebody who's maybe you're native to the kingdom. Maybe you're 20 million power, maybe you're 30 million power, even up to 40 million power. Realistically, my advice to you is to bring somewhere between 1 and 3 marches. You really don't want to be bringing 5 marches to the battlefield. And the reason for that is this. At that power level, you probably don't have that many troops. You probably haven't completed all of your buildings yet. You probably don't have very high technology. You probably don't have the best commander setups. You probably don't have the best gear. So what you should really be thinking about doing is what march gives you the best chances to be efficient on the battlefield, the best chances to be successful, to have fun, enjoy the game, and do a little bit of damage to your enemy. And usually for players of that strength, we are talking about somewhere between 1 and 3 marches. So what might those marches look like for players of that strength? If we go into our commander tab here, and this is what's really different about KVK2 now versus KVK2 even a year ago, is that these commanders that used to be available in KVK2 are not there now. For example, when I first played KVK2 in Kingdom 93, Alexander the Great came on the wheel in maybe the first week of KVK, and everybody was spinning for Alexander the Great and improving their Alexander the Great. But now we're in this KVK2 in 2250, and we're only on the second Genghis Khan wheel. That means Alexander the Great won't be here for maybe another month or more. So Alexander the Great really isn't an option for you if you are a native to these kingdoms. So what commanders could we be looking at? What commanders could we be using? And if we're looking to make 1 march or maybe 2 marches, what are the things, what are the combinations we should be doing? My recommendation for you is to look at your infantry marches. And the reason for that is because infantry have some of the stronger commanders in KVK2 and KVK3. Yes, there are some strong commander pairs you can do with archers. There are some strong commander pairs you can do with calves. But those pairs or those commanders really don't have a lot of longevity. For example, Genghis Khan is a very strong cavalry commander, and in KVK2 he does a ton of damage, can really pump out a lot of damage. The problem is that long-term Genghis Khan really loses value, and in Season of Conquest, he just gets absolutely wrecked on the field. The same thing could be said about Edward of Woodstock, very effective in KVK2, but as you get deeper into the game, Edward of Woodstock not very valuable. So you can see that even myself, I've not invested really much at all in either of these two commanders. So, that's a cavalry and that's an archer march. But now let's think about infantry marches. What are the infantry marches I could be using as a low spender, low power sort of free-to-play player? I would definitely be looking at Richard I. If you've got a Richard I who's 5-5-1-1 or even better 5-5-5-1, absolutely you want to get him out on the field. If you've got a Charles Martel who's 5-5-1-1, and again, I understand this is very difficult to have a Charles Martel at that point if you are a free-to-play or a low spender. If you are a low spender, I recommend the daily bundles. I recommend buying Charles Martel from those daily bundles until you get him into a usable position like 5-5-1-1. And who would you pair these commanders with? So I would not pair them together. I would not pair Richard and Charles. There's just not enough damage output. I think I would take Richard I and put behind him an E-Song. And ideally, you've gotten your E-Song from the Wheel of Fortune during KVK1, and even free-to-play and low spenders should be maxing E-Song as fast as you possibly can. He's just going to be a really great commander for you in KVK2, so if you can do Richard plus E-Song, that would be a great pair. Alternatively, you could do Charles plus E-Song, another really, really solid pair for you. And so I think that's a really excellent first march, Richard and E-Song or Charles and E-Song. If you can't make that work, or maybe you can do Charles and E-Song, another pair you should be looking at is Richard with Ethelfled. Ethelfled is a great pair for Richard because his slowdown on his first skill, right? His first skill reduces enemy march speed. Ethelfled's fourth skill her expertise rather, increases damage by 20% to enemies that are affected with slowdown. So there's some really good synergy between those two. They both do area of effect debuff, and that's really critical when we're talking about open field fighting. The number one thing I look for in open field is area of effect. The number two thing might be something like some march speed, but number one is area of effect. And both of these marches I've talked about so far, maybe Charles with YSG, Richard with Ethelfled, both have lots of area of effect damage. Now, what else could we be looking at? Yes, if you have Saladin, this is really for the mega whales. This isn't for the free-to-play players who are very unlikely to have Saladin at this point. But if you can get a Saladin to a 5-5-5-1, absolutely you can use him in KVK2. You can pair him with Ethelfled as well. It's an excellent pair. You can also pair Saladin with, if we go all the way down, you can pair him with a Khan, of course, but I don't really recommend investing in Khan, especially if you're low spend or free to play. But you can also pair Saladin with some epic commanders like Baibars, again, to get that AoE damage. Baibars is not a great commander, but when you take Saladin and you get a little bit of tankiness from him and pair him with Baibars, you can actually do a fair amount of AoE damage, which is what you're looking to do in open field combat. So I think those are really the main commanders I would be looking at in KVK2 if I'm a low spender free to play. Presumably, you're probably going to have to bring some epics on the field as well. And when we're looking at epics, for sure, Sun Tzu is one we want to think about. We can go Richard Sun Tzu. We can go Charles Martel Sun Tzu. Let's say your E-Song isn't ready yet. He's not expertise yet. Richard Sun Tzu or Charles Martel Sun Tzu is a great pair to go with. You could also put Joan of Arc with a Richard. I would actually put Joan of Arc with a Richard, not with a Martel. I would want to put some kind of damage march like an E-Song or even a Sun Tzu behind Martel. But with Richard, you can definitely pair Joan of Arc for some big buffs for all of your marches. And again, we're probably looking at 1 to 3 marches. So if those aren't going to work for you, if you say, hey, I really want to get my archers activated, you can do something like a Herman or a Kusunoki. I'd actually prefer to go Kusunoki with YSG because of the area of effect. We're talking about open field fighting and where area of effect is really useful. Kusunoki with YSG is a solid way to go for an archer march. Now you might be saying, well, wait a minute, what about like El Cid? You could do El Cid YSG in the open field if you've got an El Cid at 5-5-1-1. I've never put a single commander sculpture in El Cid. I've never won a Mightiest Governor with him and mine, and I'm 400 days old and I'm 5-5-2-1. So I think it's going to be pretty hard to have an El Cid at a very effective place for KVK2. But if you've got him there, you can certainly pair him with YSG. You're losing out on that area of effect damage that you would get with Kusunoki, but you're getting some nice stats. You're getting some instant proc damage on his second skill, which is not a lot of damage, but it's pretty nice. So El Cid can be effective there with your archers. And I think those are really the main marches I would be thinking about. You could, if you really wanted to, do something like Bjorn Ironside. You could take Bjorn and pair him with like a Sun Tzu. That's a fine pair as well. But by KVK2, you really want to try to start reducing the amount of epics you have on the field. And if you're a low power, low spender player, 1 to 3 marches is what you're looking for. You're looking for your Richard Sun Tzus, your Richards with E-Songs, your Charles E-Song. Those are really effective marches for you. Now, if you're a Mega Whale, if you're a big spender, and you're in KVK2, and you know you're up to 80 million power, 100 million power or more, you're going to be in a great spot. Even if it's your first KVK2, you can really run some effective marches. Presumably, you've got your Richard in a really good spot, 5551 or better, maybe expertise. Presumably, you've got E-Song expertise. Presumably, you've got Minamoto expertise. Presumably, you've won maybe a Mightious Governor with Saladin, and you've started putting sculptures into him. You've been buying the daily bundles with Charles Martel, and you've probably got Charles Martel expertise. So you're in a really good spot from a legendary point of view. You might even have well, surely you'll have Ethelflaed expertise. You may have Tao Tao in a good spot. You may have El Cid in a good spot. So you can really run the gamut of all three troop types, infantry, cavalry, and archer, if you're in that kind of a position. And there's a whole lot of march combos you can go with there. I already mentioned some that I would continue to use. Richard with Ethelflaed is very solid. Maybe you would go Minamoto behind a Saladin. Saladin Minamoto would be fine, even though it doesn't do AoE. You could do Minamoto with Baibars if you wanted some AoE. Minamoto is okay to use PvP versus opponents in KVK2, but as you get to Season of Conquest, he's really just for killing barb forts. In terms of archers, again, maybe your El Cid's in a good spot, and you can bring El Cid out there. You might also have, if you're again a big whale, you might have something like Hannibal Barca expertise. You can certainly use him still in KVK2. As you get beyond KVK2, you're not going to find much use for him. Perhaps your Khan is at least 5551. Although I do really like Khan's expertise. If you're a big whale, you can absolutely use Khan behind a Saladin in KVK2. And perhaps your Caesar is in a really good spot. And Caesar can be used in a whole variety of ways in KVK2. He's very tanky. He can use with all kinds of troops. You can use him with Ethelflaed. You can use him with a Sun Tzu. You can even use him with Joan of Arc. There's a lot of options for Caesar if he's in a really good spot for you as well. So for Mega Whales, lots and lots of options. For the low spender, free to play, even mid spenders, I think you really want to focus on 1 to 3 marches. For the big whales, sure, you can go 5 marches and easily have a good time in that KVK. But keep in mind that what you're going to be up against when you are in your first KVK2, you're going to be up against people who are migrating back, like myself in this case, migrating back with a Constantine that's at 5551. I'm migrating back with expertise commanders. I've got a Saladin who's already 5551. I've got an Alex, and this is one of the big ones that I've got Alexander the Great, and my opponents don't. At least they won't for a while, probably not even the entire KVK. So be wary that you're going to run into a lot of these commanders, and you're going to be at a commander disadvantage in KVK2 if it's your first time. So that's why I really think it's important to pick a couple of marches, 1 to 3 marches that are really going to be effective and give you the best chance of success and getting good trades with your opponents when we're talking about open field fighting in KVK2. That's it for this video, guys. If you learned something useful for you, if you found the right commander pairs for you, or if you want to suggest other commander pairs down in the comments, please leave one down below. Otherwise, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all next time.